We've peeled back the layers of individual error, then wrestled with the tangled knot of combined biases. We've seen how little assumptions hold hands to create rather convincing illusions. But today, dear detectives, we elevate our game. Today, we're not just looking at the stage magic, we're examining the entire theater production. We're talking about the grand narratives, the systemic whispers, the carefully constructed realities that leverage not just an error, but our entire suite of human vulnerabilities, often for a very specific purpose. We're going to unmask the puppet masters behind the collective blind spots. So, prepare your minds for a deep dive into the architecture of large-scale illusion. The game, as always, is afoot. But this time, the stakes are considerably higher. Let's dive into the world of grand deceptions with a classic example, the healthy snack trap. You know those snack bars that boast about being all natural or low fat? They often exploit a cocktail of human errors, like the halo effect, assuming something is healthy just because it has one good ingredient, and confirmation bias, only noticing the claims that support our desire for a guilt-free treat. Picture this. You grab a bar that's labeled superfood. You think, I'm making a healthy choice. But, lo and behold, it's packed with sugar and calories. The marketing plays on our desire to feel virtuous while we're munching away. The broader implication? This deception fuels a cycle of unhealthy eating habits, leading us to believe we're making smart choices when we're really just falling for a clever ruse. Actionable insight? Next time you reach for that healthy snack, flip it over and check the ingredients. Remember, just because it's dressed up in a cape doesn't mean it's a superhero. Let's talk about the buy one, get one free phenomenon, a classic example of how marketing strategies exploit our cognitive biases. This tactic plays on the scarcity heuristic, making us think we're getting a deal, and the anchoring effect, where the original price anchors our perception of value. Imagine you walk into a store, and there it is, a shiny sign declaring, "Buy one, get one free." You think, what a steal! But here's the catch. You might only need one item. The store knows this and cleverly nudges you to buy more than you intended, banking on your fear of missing out on a great deal. The broader implication? This strategy leads to overconsumption and waste, as people fill their carts with items they don't really need, all while feeling like savvy shoppers. So, next time you see that enticing offer, pause and ask yourself, am I really saving money or just falling for a clever ruse? Remember, sometimes the best deal is the one you don't make. Let's shine a light on the everyone's doing it phenomenon, a classic case of social proof gone wild. This narrative often leads us to make decisions based on what we think is popular rather than what's right for us. It's a systemic exploitation of conformity bias and herd mentality. Picture this. You're at a restaurant, and the waiter says, "The chef's special is the most popular dish." Suddenly, you feel compelled to order it, even if you're not a fan of seafood. The underlying assumption? If everyone else loves it, it must be good. But what if it's just a clever marketing ploy to push a dish that's not selling well? The broader implication? This can lead to a culture where trends dictate choices, regardless of personal preference or quality. We end up with a society that values popularity over substance, often leading to disappointment. So, next time you're swayed by the crowd, pause and think, am I choosing this because I genuinely want it, or just because everyone else is? Remember, being unique can sometimes be the best flavor of all. Let's unravel the free trial trap, a sneaky, grand deception that plays on our innate desire for a good deal and our tendency to procrastinate. Companies offer free trials, enticing us with a no-risk opportunity to try out their products. But here's the catch. They often rely on a mix of the sunk cost fallacy and the default effect. You sign up thinking, I'll just try it out. But once you've invested time and maybe even a little effort into using it, you're more likely to keep it, even if you don't really need it. The system is designed to make you forget that the trial will end, and suddenly you're paying for something you didn't even want. The broader implication? This strategy not only leads to unnecessary expenses, but also cultivates a culture of passive consumption, where people feel trapped by their own choices. So, next time you're tempted by a free trial, set a reminder to evaluate whether you really want to continue after the trial ends. Remember, just because it's free doesn't mean it's worth the cost of your attention. Let's dive into the world of loyalty programs, a grand deception masquerading as customer appreciation. These programs often exploit our desire for rewards and our tendency to overvalue immediate benefits, creating a perfect storm of cognitive biases like the endowment effect and loss aversion. Imagine you sign up for a coffee shop loyalty card. You think, if I buy 10 cups, I get one free. Sounds great, right? But here's the kicker. You end up buying more coffee than you normally would, driven by the fear of losing out on that freebie. The coffee shop knows that once you're in, you'll keep coming back, often spending more than you intended. The broader implication? This system can lead to unnecessary spending and a false sense of loyalty, as customers feel they are getting a deal when they're actually just being nudged into more consumption. Next time you're tempted to join a loyalty program, ask yourself, am I really saving money or just being lured into a cycle of spending? Remember, loyalty shouldn't cost you your wallet. Let's dissect the world of limited time offers, a classic grand deception that plays on urgency and scarcity to manipulate consumer behavior. This tactic exploits our fear of missing out, FOMO, and the urgency effect, creating a perfect storm of emotional decision-making. Picture this. You see an ad that says, only 24 hours left to get 50 off. Suddenly, your heart races. You think, I can't let this deal slip away. But here's the twist. Many of these offers are not as limited as they seem. Companies often recycle these promotions, creating a false sense of urgency to drive impulse buys. The broader implication? This strategy can lead to buyer's remorse, where consumers regret their hasty decisions, ultimately fostering a culture of anxiety-driven shopping. So, next time you're faced with a ticking clock on a deal, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this urgency real or just a clever ploy? Remember, true value isn't measured by how quickly you buy, but by how wisely you choose. Let's take a look at the world of subscription services, a grand deception that cleverly plays on our desire for convenience and the illusion of savings. This system often exploits the status quo bias and the commitment bias, leading us to stick with subscriptions long after we've lost interest. Imagine you sign up for a streaming service, thinking, I'll just watch a few shows. But then, life gets busy and you forget about it. The company knows that once you've signed up, you're likely to keep paying even if you haven't watched anything in months. They count on your inertia to keep raking in those monthly fees. The broader implication? This creates a culture of passive consumption, where people are unknowingly drained of their money for services they don't use, all while feeling like they're getting a good deal. Next time you're tempted to sign up for another subscription, pause and ask yourself, am I really going to use this, or am I just signing up for the sake of convenience? Remember, sometimes the best subscription is the one you never start. Let's examine the world of expert opinions, a grand deception that often leverages our trust in authority figures and the bandwagon effect. This narrative plays on our inclination to defer to those we perceive as knowledgeable, creating a perfect storm of confirmation bias and the appeal to authority. Imagine a celebrity endorsing a health product. You think, if they use it, it must be good. But the truth is, they might not even use it themselves, they're just cashing in on a paycheck. This system exploits our tendency to follow the crowd, leading us to trust endorsements over evidence. The broader implication? This can create a culture where misinformation spreads like wildfire, as people blindly follow trends without questioning the validity of the claims. So, next time you see a so-called expert promoting something, take a moment to dig deeper. Ask yourself, is this based on solid evidence or just a shiny endorsement? Remember, not every expert is an authority on what's best for you. Let's take a closer look at the world of influencer culture, a grand deception that thrives on social validation and the illusion of authenticity. This phenomenon exploits our tendency to idealize social proof and the bandwagon effect, creating a perfect storm of misplaced trust. Imagine scrolling through social media and seeing influencers flaunting their perfect lives and products. You think, if they're reusing it, it must be amazing. But here's the catch. Many of these influencers are paid to promote products they don't even use, leading us to believe in a curated reality that doesn't reflect true experiences. The broader implication? This can create unrealistic expectations and a culture of comparison, where people feel inadequate because they are measuring their lives against a filtered version of reality. Next time you find yourself swayed by an influencer's endorsement, remember to question the authenticity behind the glamour. Ask yourself, is this a genuine recommendation or just a well-crafted marketing ploy? Authenticity doesn't come with a price tag, so keep your standards high and your wallet closed. Let's dive into the world of New Year's resolutions, a classic grand deception that exploits our innate desire for self-improvement and the optimism bias. Each January, millions vow to transform their lives, often falling prey to the planning fallacy and the illusion of control. Picture this. You set a resolution to hit the gym 5 times a week. You feel pumped and ready to go. But as weeks pass, life gets busy and your motivation wanes. The system of annual resolutions sets you up for failure, as it encourages unrealistic expectations and neglects the need for sustainable habits. The broader implication? This cycle of setting lofty goals and failing to meet them fosters a culture of guilt and disappointment, leading many to abandon their aspirations altogether. So, next time January rolls around, think about setting smaller, achievable goals throughout the year, instead of one grand resolution. Remember, slow and steady wins the race, and consistency beats intensity every time. Let's dig into the world of buy now, pay later schemes, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our desire for instant gratification and the illusion of affordability. These systems capitalize on the present bias and the optimism bias, making us believe we can have it all without immediate consequences. Imagine you see a shiny new gadget online, and the site offers a tempting payment plan. You think, I can afford this. But what they don't tell you is that those small payments can add up, often with hidden fees or interest that kicks in if you miss a payment. Suddenly, that affordable gadget becomes a financial burden. The broader implication? This creates a culture of debt where consumers feel empowered to make purchases they can't truly afford, leading to financial stress down the road. So, next time you're tempted by a buy now, pay later offer, pause and consider the long-term costs. Ask yourself, is this instant gratification worth the potential financial hangover? Remember, true financial freedom comes from making informed choices, not impulsive ones. Let's explore the world of free shipping offers, a grand deception that cleverly plays on our desire to save money and our tendency to overvalue perceived savings. This tactic exploits the anchoring effect and the scarcity heuristic, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine you're shopping online and see a deal that says, "Spend 50 for free shipping." You think, "I can't let that shipping fee ruin my savings." So, you toss in an extra item you didn't really want just to hit that threshold. The retailer knows this and has set the bar just high enough to nudge you into unnecessary spending. The broader implication? This creates a culture of compulsive buying, where consumers prioritize saving on shipping over making thoughtful purchases, leading to cluttered homes and buyer's remorse. Next time you see that enticing free shipping offer, ask yourself if you really need to spend extra to save a few bucks. Remember, sometimes the best deal is the one that doesn't cost you more than you intended to spend. Let's dive into the world of limited editions, a grand deception that plays on our fear of missing out and our tendency to overvalue exclusivity. This tactic exploits the scarcity principle and the bandwagon effect, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine you walk into a store and see a sign that says, "Only 100 available." You instantly feel a rush of excitement, thinking, "I need to get this before it's gone." But here's the twist: many of these so-called limited editions are produced in bulk, designed to create artificial scarcity. The company knows that by labeling something as exclusive, they can drive up demand and make you believe you're part of an elite group. The broader implication? This can lead to impulse buying and a culture of superficial value, where people prioritize owning something rare over its actual worth or usefulness. Next time you encounter a limited edition product, take a moment to question its true value. Ask yourself, am I buying this because I genuinely want it, or just because it's labeled as exclusive? Remember, true worth isn't defined by rarity, but by how well it fits into your life. Let's tackle the world of health halo products, a grand deception that thrives on our desire to make healthier choices while exploiting our cognitive biases. This system often plays on the halo effect and the false consensus effect, leading us to believe that if something is labeled as healthy, it must be good for us. Imagine you stroll down the grocery aisle and see a box of gluten-free cookies. You think, these must be a guilt-free treat. But here's the kicker. They might be loaded with sugar and artificial ingredients. The marketing plays on your assumption that gluten-free means healthy, even when it's just a clever label to boost sales. The broader implication? This creates a culture where consumers feel virtuous about their choices, often leading to overindulgence in products that are still unhealthy. Next time you reach for that healthier option, take a moment to read the label. Ask yourself, is this really a better choice, or am I just falling for a marketing trick? Remember, not everything that glitters is gold, especially in the snack aisle. Let's take a look at the world of expert recommendations, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our trust in authority and the illusion of expertise. This narrative often combines the appeal to authority with confirmation bias, leading us to accept opinions without critical scrutiny. Picture this. You're browsing for a new skincare product, and you see a beauty guru raving about a cream that promises to erase wrinkles overnight. You think, they must know what they're talking about. But here's the catch. Many influencers are paid to promote products without any real understanding of their effectiveness. This creates a false sense of credibility that can mislead consumers into spending money on ineffective solutions. The broader implication? This system fosters a culture where marketing triumphs over scientific evidence, leading people to invest in products that may not deliver on their promises. Next time you're tempted by an expert's glowing review, take a moment to dig deeper. Ask yourself, is this recommendation based on solid evidence or just a well-crafted marketing strategy? Remember, not every expert is an authority on what's best for your skin. Let's delve into the world of free trials that often masquerade as generous offers, but are actually a grand deception. This tactic exploits our optimism bias and the sunk cost fallacy, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Picture this. You sign up for a free trial of a streaming service thinking, what do I have to lose? But as the trial ends, you forget to cancel, and suddenly you re-hit with a monthly fee. The company banks on your initial excitement and the time you spent exploring their content, nudging you into a subscription you never intended to keep. The broader implication? This creates a culture of passive consumption, where people feel trapped into paying for services they don't use, all while believing they made a savvy choice. Next time you're tempted by a free trial, remember to set a reminder to evaluate whether it's worth continuing. Don't let a freebie turn into a financial trap. Let's unravel the phenomenon of the greenwashing trend, a grand deception that exploits our desire for sustainability while masking the truth behind corporate practices. This strategy plays on our emotional biases, particularly the availability heuristic and the bandwagon effect, leading consumers to believe they're making eco-friendly choices. Imagine a company touting its new green product line, complete with nature-themed packaging and buzzwords like eco-friendly and sustainable. You think, this must be good for the planet. But often these claims are exaggerated or misleading, allowing companies to profit while contributing little to actual environmental progress. The broader implication? This creates a culture of complacency where consumers feel virtuous about their purchases without realizing they might be supporting harmful practices under the guise of sustainability. Next time you see a product marketed as green, take a moment to investigate its true impact. Ask yourself, is this a genuine effort to be sustainable or just a clever marketing ploy? Remember, true environmental responsibility goes beyond a catchy label. Let's dive into the world of influencer marketing, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our social validation needs and the bandwagon effect. This strategy often combines the appeal to authority with the illusion of authenticity, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine scrolling through social media and seeing a fitness influencer promoting a miracle weight loss supplement. You think, if they're reusing it, it must work. But here's the catch. Influencers often promote products for a paycheck, not because they genuinely believe in their effectiveness. This leads consumers to trust endorsements over empirical evidence, falling prey to the illusion that popularity equals quality. The broader implication? This creates a culture where trends overshadow truth, leading people to invest in products that promise results but often deliver disappointment. Next time you see an influencer raving about a product, take a moment to question the motivation behind their endorsement. Ask yourself, am I buying this because it's genuinely beneficial or just because it's trending? Remember, not every popular choice is the right choice. Let's explore the world of New Year, New You gym promotions, a classic grand deception that exploits our hopes and biases. This system plays on the optimism bias, the planning fallacy, and the social comparison effect, creating a perfect storm for consumer behavior. Every January, gyms roll out enticing offers like zero enrollment fees and discounted memberships, enticing you to commit to a healthier lifestyle. You think, this is my year. But as the months go by, reality sets in, and attendance dwindles. The gym knows that many people will sign up with good intentions, but won't stick around, banking on the fact that most will forget about their commitment. The broader implication? This creates a culture of empty resolutions, where individuals feel pressured to conform to societal expectations of fitness, often leading to disappointment and guilt when they inevitably fall short. Next time you're tempted by a gym promotion, consider the long-term commitment. Ask yourself, am I genuinely ready for this change, or just swept up in the New Year hype? Remember, real transformation takes more than a promotional offer. It requires a sustainable plan. Let's take a look at the world of buy one, get one free promotions, a grand deception that plays on our cognitive biases and societal norms. This strategy exploits the scarcity principle and the reciprocity norm, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine you see a sign that says, buy one, get one free on your favorite snack. You think, what a deal! But here's the twist: the store knows you're likely to buy more than you need, simply because it feels like you're getting a bargain. You end up with twice as many snacks, but how many of those will actually get eaten before they go stale? The broader implication? This creates a culture of overconsumption, where people feel pressured to take advantage of deals, often leading to waste and regret. It's a clever way for companies to boost sales while consumers feel like they're making savvy choices. Next time you see one of those enticing offers, pause and consider whether you actually need the extra item. Ask yourself, am I really saving money, or just falling for a marketing trick. Remember, sometimes the best deal is the one you don't make. Let's shine a light on the world of limited time only sales, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our urgency and scarcity biases. This strategy combines the fear of missing out with the anchoring effect, creating a perfect storm of impulsive decision-making. Imagine you stroll into a store and see a sign screaming, "Only 3 hours left to save 70." Suddenly, your heart races. You think, "I can't let this deal slip away." But here's the catch. Many of these sales are designed to create artificial urgency, often recycling the same discounts under different banners. The store knows that by creating a ticking clock, they can push you to buy without thinking. The broader implication? This fosters a culture of hasty purchases, where consumers prioritize short-term savings over thoughtful decision-making, leading to buyer's remorse and cluttered homes filled with items they didn't truly need. Next time you encounter a limited time offer, take a moment to breathe. Ask yourself, is this urgency real or just a clever marketing tactic? Remember, the best deals are the ones you make with a clear mind, not a racing heart. Let's dive into the world of free samples at grocery stores, a grand deception that exploits our taste buds and cognitive biases. This tactic combines the reciprocity norm with the anchoring effect, creating a perfect storm for impulsive buying. Picture this. You're strolling through the aisles, and a friendly employee offers you a free sample of a new cheese. You think, "How nice!" But here's the catch. Once you taste that delicious cheese, you're more likely to buy it, even if it's pricier than your usual brand. The store banks on your sense of obligation to reciprocate their generosity. The broader implication? This creates a culture of mindless consumption, where people feel compelled to buy items they didn't plan on, all because of a tiny taste. It's a clever way to manipulate your shopping habits without you even realizing it. Next time you re-tempted by a free sample, pause and consider whether you'd buy it if you hadn't tasted it. Remember, just because it's free doesn't mean it's a must-have. Let's dive into the world of cashback credit cards, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our desire for rewards while masking the true cost of spending. This system plays on our immediate gratification bias and the illusion of control, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine you sign up for a credit card that promises 5 cash back on all purchases. You think, "This is free money." But here's the catch. Many people end up spending more than they normally would, believing they're making smart financial choices. The credit card company knows that once you're in, the allure of cash back can lead to debt, as interest rates often outweigh the rewards. The broader implication? This creates a culture of overspending, where consumers feel empowered to buy more, often leading to financial strain while believing they're savvy savers. Next time you're tempted by a cashback offer, take a moment to consider your spending habits. Ask yourself, am I really saving money or just falling for a clever marketing trick? Remember, true financial health isn't about rewards, it's about mindful spending. Let's delve into the world of free trial subscriptions, a classic grand deception that exploits our optimism and cognitive biases. This tactic combines the sunk cost fallacy with the illusion of control, creating a perfect storm for consumer behavior. Imagine you sign up for a streaming service with a 30-day free trial, thinking, "I'll just cancel if I don't like it." But as the trial progresses, you get sucked into binge watching, and suddenly, the thought of canceling feels like giving up on a new hobby. The company banks on your emotional investment, knowing that once you've spent time exploring their content, you're less likely to walk away. The broader implication? This creates a culture of passive consumption, where people feel trapped in subscriptions they don't use, all while believing they made a savvy choice. Next time you're tempted by a free trial, remind yourself to set a cancellation date in your calendar. Ask yourself, am I really going to use this, or just falling for a clever marketing ploy? Remember, sometimes the best deal is the one you don't get into in the first place. Let's take a look at the world of loyalty programs, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our desire for belonging and the sunk cost fallacy. These programs often play on the illusion of value and the commitment bias, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine you join a coffee shop loyalty program thinking, I'll earn rewards for my daily caffeine fix. But here's the twist. You end up buying more coffee than you usually would, driven by the need to reach that next reward. The shop knows that once you're invested, you'll keep coming back, even if it means spending more than you intended. The broader implication? This system fosters a culture of compulsive consumption, where people feel loyal to brands that may not actually serve their best interests, leading to unnecessary spending and clutter. Next time you're tempted to join a loyalty program, consider whether it's genuinely beneficial or just a clever way to keep you hooked. Remember, loyalty shouldn't cost you your wallet. Let's explore the world of trendy diets, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our desire for quick fixes and societal pressures. This phenomenon combines the bandwagon effect, confirmation bias, and the false consensus effect, creating a perfect storm of misguided eating habits. Imagine the latest diet fad hits social media, promising miraculous weight loss results in just weeks. You think, everyone is doing it, so it must work. But here's the catch. Many of these diets lack scientific backing and often lead to yo-yo dieting, where people cycle between losing and gaining weight. The diet industry thrives on this cycle, knowing that as long as they keep promoting the next big thing, consumers will keep jumping from one diet to another. The broader implication? This creates a culture of frustration and confusion around healthy eating, where individuals feel pressured to conform to trends rather than listen to their bodies. Next time you hear about a trendy diet, take a moment to step back. Ask yourself, is this really a sustainable choice for me, or just another fleeting fad? Remember, true health isn't about chasing trends. It's about finding what works for you. Let's dive into the world of limited edition products, a classic grand deception that exploits our desire for exclusivity and the fear of missing out. This strategy taps into the scarcity principle and social proof, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Picture this. You see a sneaker brand releasing a limited edition pair, and suddenly everyone is talking about it. You think, if everyone wants them, they must be amazing. But here's the catch. Many of these limited editions are produced in bulk, designed to create a false sense of scarcity. The brand knows that by labeling something as exclusive, they can drive up demand and make you believe you're part of an elite club. The broader implication? This fosters a culture of impulsive buying, where consumers prioritize owning something rare over its actual value or utility, leading to cluttered closets filled with items they don't truly need. Next time you see a limited edition item, take a moment to question its true exclusivity. Ask yourself, am I buying this because I genuinely want it, or just because it's marketed as special? Remember, true value isn't defined by rarity, but by how well it fits into your life. Let's dive into the world of free gift with purchase promotions, a grand deception that plays on our desire for value and the reciprocity norm. This tactic exploits the anchoring effect and the illusion of savings, creating a perfect storm for consumer behavior. Imagine you're at a cosmetics counter, and the salesperson says, "Buy this lipstick and you'll get a free eyeshadow." You think, "What a deal!" But here's the twist. You may not have needed the lipstick in the first place. The store knows that by offering a free gift, they can nudge you into spending more than you originally planned, all while making you feel like you're getting something for nothing. The broader implication? This fosters a culture of unnecessary purchases, where consumers feel compelled to buy items they don't need, just to get that so-called free gift. It's a clever way to manipulate spending while making you feel like a savvy shopper. Next time you see a free gift offer, pause and consider whether it's truly a bargain or just a clever marketing trick. Remember, the best gift is often the one you don't have to buy. Let's take a look at the world of subscription boxes, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our desire for novelty and the sunk cost fallacy. This system plays on the anticipation bias and the fear of missing out, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine you sign up for a monthly snack box, thinking, "I'll discover new treats every month." But as the months roll by, you find yourself receiving items you don't even like, yet you feel compelled to keep the subscription going because you've already invested money. The company knows that once you're hooked, you're likely to ignore the growing pile of snacks you'll never eat. The broader implication? This creates a culture of wastefulness, where consumers feel pressured to continue spending on subscriptions that no longer bring joy, all while believing they're getting a deal. Next time you consider a subscription box, take a moment to evaluate if it's truly worth it. Ask yourself, am I excited about what's coming next, or just stuck in a cycle of spending? Remember, sometimes the best surprises are the ones you find on your own. Let's dive into the world of limited time offers, a classic grand deception that exploits our urgency and scarcity biases. This strategy combines the fear of missing out with the anchoring effect, creating a perfect storm for impulsive decision-making. Picture this. You see a sign that says, "Only 24 hours left to save 50." Suddenly, your heart races. You think, "I can't let this deal slip away." But here's the catch. Many of these offers are recycled, designed to create artificial urgency. The retailer knows that by throwing a ticking clock at you, they can push you to buy without thinking. The broader implication? This fosters a culture of hasty purchases, where consumers prioritize short-term savings over thoughtful decision-making, leading to buyer's remorse and cluttered homes filled with items they didn't truly need. Next time you encounter a limited-time offer, take a moment to breathe. Ask yourself, is this urgency real or just a clever marketing tactic? Remember, the best deals are the ones you make with a clear mind, not a racing heart. Let's explore the world of always low prices slogans, A grand deception that cleverly plays on our desire for savings while masking the true cost of consumer behavior. This strategy exploits the anchoring effect and the illusion of value, creating a perfect storm of misguided shopping habits. Imagine walking into a store with a giant sign proclaiming, "Everyday low prices." You think, wow, I'm getting a great deal. But here's the catch. The prices may be low, but the quality of the products often suffers, leading to more frequent purchases and ultimately higher spending over time. The store knows that by anchoring your perception of value with that catchy slogan, you're more likely to overlook the long-term costs. The broader implication? This creates a culture of disposable consumption, where consumers feel good about saving money in the short term while contributing to waste and poor product quality in the long run. Next time you're drawn in by a low-price slogan, take a moment to evaluate the overall value. Ask yourself, am I really saving money or just falling for a clever marketing tactic? Remember, sometimes the best savings come from investing in quality rather than chasing the lowest price. Let's unravel the phenomenon of social media likes, a grand deception that exploits our need for validation and the herd mentality. This system plays on the social proof bias and the fear of missing out, creating a perfect storm for self-esteem issues. Imagine scrolling through your feed and seeing posts with hundreds of likes. You think, wow, that must be a great post. But here's the catch. Many of those likes are driven by algorithms that prioritize engagement over quality. The platforms know that the more likes a post gets, the more likely it is to be seen, creating a feedback loop that skews our perception of value. The broader implication? This fosters a culture where individuals equate their worth with social media metrics, leading to anxiety and a distorted sense of reality. People may feel pressured to curate their lives to gain likes, rather than sharing authentic experiences. Next time you find yourself chasing likes, remember to focus on genuine connections instead. Ask yourself, am I sharing for validation or for the joy of expression? Remember, true value lies in authenticity, not in the number of thumbs up. Let's delve into the world of free trials, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our optimism and cognitive biases. This strategy plays on the sunk cost fallacy and the illusion of control, creating a perfect storm for consumer behavior. Imagine you sign up for a free trial of a meal kit service, thinking, I'll just cancel if I don't like it. But as the days go by, you start receiving meals, and before you know it, you're deep into the cooking routine, feeling guilty about wasting the food if you cancel. The company knows that once you've invested time and effort, you're less likely to back out, even if you weren't that thrilled about it in the first place. The broader implication? This creates a culture of passive consumption, where people feel trapped in subscriptions they don't use, all while believing they made a savvy choice. Next time you're tempted by a free trial, set a reminder to evaluate whether it's worth continuing. Remember, the best deals often come without strings attached. Let's take a look at the world of buy now, pay later schemes, a classic grand deception that cleverly exploits our desire for instant gratification and the illusion of affordability. This system plays on the optimism bias and the anchoring effect, creating a perfect storm for impulsive spending. Imagine you see a shiny new gadget online, and the site offers a tempting payment plan. You think, I can afford this. But what they don't tell you is that those small payments can add up, often with hidden fees or interest that kicks in if you miss a payment. Suddenly, that affordable gadget becomes a financial burden. The broader implication? This creates a culture of debt where consumers feel empowered to make purchases they can truly afford, leading to financial stress down the road. Next time you're tempted by a buy now, pay later offer, pause and consider the long-term costs. Ask yourself, is this instant gratification worth the potential financial hangover? Remember, true financial freedom comes from making informed choices, not impulsive ones. Let's unravel the phenomenon of limited-time free trials, a grand deception that preys on our impulsive nature and fear of missing out. This strategy combines the sunk cost fallacy, urgency bias, and the illusion of control, creating a perfect storm for consumer behavior. Picture this. You see a flashy ad for a new fitness app offering a 7-day free trial. You think, I'll just try it out. But as the days go by, you get sucked into the app, logging workouts and tracking meals. The clock is ticking, and suddenly you feel pressured to keep it because you've invested time. The company knows that once you start using it, you're less likely to cancel, even if you didn't plan to pay. The broader implication? This creates a culture of subscription fatigue, where people end up with multiple services they don't use, all because they felt compelled to try something that seemed like a good deal. Next time you see a free trial, remember to set a timer and evaluate whether you'll actually use it after the trial ends. It's all about making informed choices, not just jumping on the bandwagon. Question from Lola Takes. Are you okay? You looks like attic. The classic assumption that someone who's enthusiastic about a topic must be overly invested. This reflects a common misconception where passion is mistaken for obsession. It's easy to see someone excitedly discussing something and think they might be a bit too into it. Imagine a friend who can't stop talking about their new hobby, like knitting. You might think, wow, they must really need to chill. But in reality, they're just sharing something they love, and it's infectious. The broader implication? We often misinterpret enthusiasm as an addiction or obsession, missing out on the joy of shared interests. So, next time you see someone passionately discussing a topic, remember that enthusiasm can be a beautiful thing. It's all about finding joy in what we love. Let's take a closer look at the world of limited edition products, a grand deception that exploits our desire for uniqueness and the scarcity principle. This strategy combines the fear of missing out with the bandwagon effect, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine you walk into a store and see a sign for a limited edition fragrance. You think, I need to grab this before it's gone. But here's the twist. Many of these limited products are mass-produced, designed to create a false sense of urgency. The brand knows that by labeling something as exclusive, they can drive up demand and make you feel special for owning it. The broader implication? This fosters a culture of impulsive buying, where consumers prioritize owning something that's rare over its actual value or usefulness, leading to cluttered homes filled with items that don't bring joy. Next time you see that enticing limited edition label, pause and consider if it's truly special or just a clever marketing tactic. Remember, true uniqueness comes from what you genuinely love, not what's labeled as exclusive. Let's talk about the phenomenon of free shipping minimums, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our desire to save money and our cognitive biases. This strategy combines the anchoring effect with the scarcity principle, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine you're shopping online and see that you need to spend $50 to qualify for free shipping. You think, I can't let that shipping fee ruin my savings. So you toss in an extra item you didn't really need just to hit that threshold. The retailer knows that by setting a minimum, they can nudge you into spending more than you intended, all while making you feel like you're saving money. The broader implication? This creates a culture of unnecessary purchases, where consumers feel compelled to buy items they don't need just to avoid paying for shipping. It's a clever way to manipulate your shopping habits without you even realizing it. Next time you see that enticing free shipping offer, pause and ask yourself if you really need to spend extra to save a few bucks. Remember, sometimes the best savings come from not buying anything at all. Question from Lola Takes. Tell me, shortest anecdote do you know? Sure, here's a short one for you. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. Remember, sometimes the simplest jokes can bring the biggest smiles. Let's take a look at the world of free trial offers, a grand deception that plays on our optimism and cognitive biases. This strategy cleverly combines the sunk cost fallacy, urgency bias, and the illusion of control, creating a perfect storm for consumer behavior. Imagine you sign up for a fitness app's free trial thinking, I'll just cancel if I don't like it. But as the trial progresses, you start using the app and investing time into workouts. The company knows that once you've put in effort, you're less likely to cancel, even if you weren't that thrilled about it initially. The broader implication? This fosters a culture of passive consumption, where people feel trapped in subscriptions they don't truly want, all while believing they made a savvy choice. Next time you consider a free trial, set a reminder to evaluate whether it's worth continuing. Remember, the best deals often come without strings attached. Let's dive into the world of subscription services, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our desire for convenience and the illusion of savings. This system plays on the commitment bias and the sunk cost fallacy, creating a perfect storm of consumer behavior. Imagine you sign up for a monthly beauty box thinking, I'll discover new products. But as the months roll by, you find yourself receiving items you don't even like. The company banks on your initial excitement and the time you've invested, nudging you to keep the subscription going even when it no longer brings joy. The broader implication? This creates a culture of passive consumption, where people feel trapped in subscriptions they don't use, all while believing they made a savvy choice. Next time you consider a subscription service, evaluate if it truly adds value to your life. Remember, sometimes less is more, and true savings come from thoughtful choices, not just automatic renewals. Let's explore the phenomenon of always low prices, a grand deception that cleverly exploits our desire for savings while masking the true cost of consumer behavior. This strategy combines the anchoring effect and the illusion of value, creating a perfect storm of misguided shopping habits. Imagine walking into a store with a giant sign proclaiming everyday low prices. You think, wow, I'm getting a great deal. But here's the catch. The prices may be low, but the quality of the products often suffers, leading to more frequent purchases and ultimately higher spending over time. The store knows that by anchoring your perception of value with that catchy slogan, you're more likely to overlook the long-term costs. The broader implication? This creates a culture of disposable consumption, where consumers feel good about saving money in the short term while contributing to waste and poor product quality in the long run. Next time you're drawn in by a low-price slogan, take a moment to evaluate the overall value. Ask yourself, am I really saving money or just falling for a clever marketing tactic? Remember, sometimes the best savings come from investing in quality rather than chasing the lowest price. As we wrap up today's session on grand deceptions, we've uncovered how systemic strategies exploit our cognitive biases and human errors. From the allure of free trials to the pressure of limited-time offers, we've seen how these tactics manipulate our decision-making processes. We discussed how marketing plays on our desires for savings, exclusivity, and instant gratification, often leading us to make choices we might later regret. The key takeaway? Awareness is your best defense against these grand deceptions. By recognizing these patterns, you can make more informed decisions